This podcast has connected me with my friends in ways that we haven't been connected in years. And for that, I just feel really grateful. Welcome to A Village in Progress. I'm your host, Alexis. Village in Progress is a weekly call between friends practicing meaningful connection in a world increasingly shaped by technology and AI. Each week, we'll share stories and insights from decades of friendship and explore the rituals and habits that have helped them thrive. We'll talk about the importance of the friendships we have and the ones we hope to build in the future. This is a space for honest talk and hopeful imagination about what it means to care, belong, and build community. I hope you'll join us because thriving villages aren't found. They are built intentionally together.
Hey, it's Lex. Hope you're having a great day. Give me a call when you can. Bye.
Okay. So this is a very special, like, VIP. That's what Village in Progress. I thought it was also cool. It's VIP. So
nice.
Yeah, right? So this is a special VIP bonus after show.
Okay.
So we're back again with my friend Jen. And I thought it would be, really fun to put my friends back in the hot seat and push them out of their comfort zones again, to be vulnerable and talk about their feelings again. So thank you for being willing to participate in this and share some thoughts about what your experience was like being on the show and any feedback you got. So I know that before I record like any episode, I am like sweating bullets. Like, I don't know why, but my body just like ramps up. And yesterday I did a recording, and by the end, like I couldn't even lift my arms up because I had just sweat under my pits, like everywhere. And while this is like very fun, I don't know, my body just gets this like nervous energy. So like before we actually recorded the show, like in the day or days or minutes like before recording, do you remember how you were feeling?
I was not nervous going into it by any means. I was a little excited because one, like I was looking at it as just like an opportunity to sit down with you, catch up, reminisce about old times, and the whole time I was having fun with that. When I was listening to the episode, I did notice my uncomfortableness of like giggling or laughing more when I was uncomfortable with the conversation or not knowing what to say. And I think that was more towards the end of the episode when you were asking me specific questions or
about your
CEO
fears
questions.
in life.
Yes. Yes. I don't want to talk about that. That's not fun.
I think that was really relatable though, because I think the feedback that I got about your episode was, first of all, people loved the Chardonnay plan. So they were like, wow, Jen, like really, like we should all just say yes and really have that and just like follow through with the plans. Cause I think most people make them, but they don't follow through with them. So it was like, we should do that. So like, I'm going to really try to do that. But I think what people really loved about it was, when you talked about your experience like in high school. And then also again, when you talked about, your fear of failure, because I think both of those are really relatable experiences. I mean, I think a lot of people have had more challenging time in their youth, like figuring out their place and everything, because you're sort of just like in the environment you're put in, right? And not until you really get to choose who you want to be around and where you want to be, do you really start to like find yourself and come out of like whatever shell you might have been in. And then a lot of people are afraid of failure, like a lot of people, and it stops them from like trying new things. But I always feel like you try so many things.
I try safe things. Like to be perfectly honest, I had an entire session with my therapist last week about my fear of failure and like needing to move past it. And I'm in a situation right now where I feel like I'm getting in my own way. And it's maybe talking about it on this podcast was the start of realizing that.
Planting the seed.
planting the seed, and I'm still getting my own way. I said we didn't have to say this, but I'm late to this podcast because I was kind of blowing the day off because I could. Alexis called me like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's raining."
Well, I thought,
and I was
man,
enjoying-
I just want to make sure, first and foremost that you were okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was 4:30 in the afternoon here, so it wasn't ridiculous, but yeah, I think that my fear of failure is we all have it, I guess, but we don't talk about it. And I think that's where
we should, because I think a lot of people do have that, and it stops a lot of people from starting things. And I think, sometimes
I appreciate that you said that you heard that more of the feedback that other people related. And that's a sign that we should talk about it more.
I think we definitely should. I hope that more people have, see that and start at least like saying out loud, like, I'm really afraid to try this because I'm afraid that, it won't work out. And
how do you get through
I
it?
feel
I'm
like
going to put you back on the spot right now, actually, because I feel like you
how
have
do I
always
go
been
through
somebody. Well, I feel like you have always been someone who you're like, let me try this. Like even right now with this podcast, you're like, I'm going to do a podcast. When you jumped into real estate, when you jumped into like, you've always decided to just jump into situations feet first. You have to be afraid. Do you just ignore it, or?
I focus more on the process. So when I went into real estate, obviously, like that was totally commission based. At the time, I was making like $50,000 a year. But at least I knew how to make that work for myself, But I had saved up a little bit of money, like put it away because I knew I wanted to transition to sales. And I knew that everyone said, like, you're not going to make any money for like 6 months to a year. And I was like, okay. But I knew enough because I had seen people around me that were doing it. And I knew that they were just working a process. So like what I did with my first real estate job was I had my friend Josh, and I just did exactly what he did every day.
I remember you talking about
and I knew like, okay, Josh is getting paid. So all I have to do is just do what Josh does. I found somebody doing it. I put myself in a position around someone doing it. And I just said, I'm just going to do what they do every day. And I'm not going to leave my day until all that stuff is done. And then maybe I'll do like one more thing than them, like eventually, And I just worked the process. And when it came to this podcast, the podcasts I love are very produced podcasts. Like, I love Good Hang with Amy Poehler. She's she is like an actress. She has a built-in fan base. She has a whole production company that makes TV shows.
Golden Globe for Best Podcast.
I'm coming for that Golden Globe. I am coming for that Golden Globe. That is on like the vision board of my life. But what I did was all the podcasts I liked, not hers because she started with a leg up, but like the podcasts I knew that had been around a while that had just caught on, I went back to their very first episodes and they were all crap. Just like, these aren't crap. They're scrappy. It is what it is. They're not produced. They're whatever. And I went back to the first ones and I compared more to that than I did to where they are 5 years later. And I said, just like everyone has to start somewhere. And I think I've just always been I'm not someone who cares terribly what other people think of me. And I think that has sort of worked to my advantage. I think understanding that the only feedback I'm really looking for is from people who are doing the same thing I'm doing. Like I heard Brene Brown say once, I only care about your feedback or criticism if you're in the arena with me, not from the cheap seats at the top. So like if you are not someone who's also willing to put themselves out there, then like, what can I do about that?
Yeah.
Like not much. I wasn't afraid in starting this podcast I did have some fear. I thought if this is a total bust and no one likes this, I'm going to be super embarrassed. But then I thought there's so many other things going on and nobody would even remember. Like if I stopped doing this, after like 2 months, no one would even remember that I did
It's
this.
so true. Someone might say to you at a party, like, whatever happened to your podcast? You're like, oh,
Yeah,
it
and I'd
didn't
be
work
like,
out.
oh,
And then,
I did it and it was fun. And they'd be like, oh, okay, great. I'm going to go get another drink. Like
yeah,
nobody
exactly.
would care. I think that we think that other people care more than they do.
It's
And
true.
so I think, if you talked about failure and you asked yourself, if no one knew that I failed, just me, would I still care as much?
No.
Like, who am I worried about failing for myself or for that? And I think like also being in sales so long, like I really started to have a mind shift where it was like, I didn't fail. It didn't work that time. So like, why didn't it work? And what can I do the next time?
Yeah.
Like just looking at it, like what like small thing could I change and then try it again? Like, I don't know, when I started like rollerblading, or I thought I was going to be like a skateboarder when I was like in 6th grade, and I ate shit every day on that skateboard, but you just like try. I think when you're little, like if you fall off a bike, you like get back up and you like try again. We just like somewhere along the way forgot to like get up and try again.
Yeah,
We
I feel
forgot that like we can get up and try again. And the people who really care about us are going to be like,
Happy cheerleaders.
yeah. And they'll be there when we try again and again and again, I don't know. I just feel like you got to start somewhere. And again, if you end up giving up on it, like nobody is even going to remember,
No
which
one's
is
gonna
like kind of
remember.
sad,
It's so
but
true.
also true.
Especially our attention spans. That's your whole point of this podcast, is that people aren't paying attention to
Nobody's paying
like
attention.
human people. Yeah.
And I would never say to you, like, the people in your village that love you would be like, I'm so proud of you for doing it, for even attempting, because most people are just not willing to even try. And so the fact that someone around them is, they're like, wow, that's incredible.
Well, see, here you came on and gave me my pep talk of the day. Why I needed to pick myself off from my like rainy day, like fucking off on life today.
Yeah. I mean, we all need a fuck off day. That's totally cool. I just
I
want to
didn't
make
have one in
sure
a
that you
while.
were, in the hospital
I
with
didn't have
somebody
one
or
in a while,
something.
and I was like on the phone with a friend catching up, and I was like, oh, because I saw your
I
text
called
come
Jen,
through,
and
like,
Jen
I
says,
could do earlier.
Hello? And I was like, oh, are you somewhere? Where are you? No,
I was
fine.
lying in my bed.
It's fine. I think what I have really enjoyed from these podcasts is just the reconnecting. And I think it's really interesting, the timing, because you and I, up until recording this, had texted or been on group text, but we hadn't connected and sat and like talked. And then it was like almost right after your episode, like, it was like right after we recorded it, one of our friends, her mom, got really sick and took like a turn. And so you and I were communicating. And then the day Jen's episode came out, it was a Tuesday morning, and now I'm 3 hours behind the East Coast. So I texted Jen, your episode's out, like, yay. And immediately she calls me, and I thought, oh shit. And you
I was
told
waiting for you to
me
wake
about,
up.
yeah. And you told me about her mom, and you're like, and her mom had passed and in the night. And you were like, I figured you didn't know yet because you were just texting me like, your episode's out, like an asshole. And I was like, oh, I didn't. So thank you. And, it just brought me back to this time and what we were talking about on your episode, which was about you are a really good person in those times to show up and to get organized. And it was like all of that just happened all over again. And instantly Jen was like, okay, what are we doing for meals? You're going to do this. Who's doing this? We're going to, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'll send this, and then coordinating all of that. And it almost felt like we were back into like another time where we had done this like too many times before, but where we had done it. And I just thought like, this podcast has connected me with my friends in ways that we haven't been connected in years. And for that, I just feel really grateful.
No, I very much, like I said before, I felt like the podcast other than my nervousness at the end. I felt like it was just you and I catching up, reminiscing, reconnecting. And to your point, yes, it was, I don't think we would have missed a beat had we not had the podcast when everything happened with our friend's mom, but it just made it even more natural. Like having that conversation, checking in, even the day of the funeral. Obviously, Alexis couldn't make it because she's in California and the funeral was in Pennsylvania. But I knew she was zoomed in, and I called you as soon as I left the cemetery to give you the
which I don't think you would have
of
done.
what's going on. I don't think I would have either. But because we had just recorded it, I like called you from the cemetery to Shiva to like check in, let you know how our friend was doing, what like who was there.
And I also probably would have found and I probably would have found out about her passing actually much later.
Probably. Yeah.
Because if I hadn't checked in with you, I was going to check in with her, and because I had been talking to her brother and checking in, but I wouldn't have known to call her like right then in that moment. So I just
made me sad that you are so far away, because it was that's the weird thing about like Judaism does death right with Shiva. It really does, because our community knows how to go and take care of the mourner. And Shiva is also sometimes like this weird cocktail party at the same time, because like everyone's hanging out, catching up, and there is that reunion part of it. And you with our friend's dad and the brother and our friends, like Alexis.
Their family's like a Larry David episode, just like
they are a Larry David episode, and I love them for it. And offline, I will tell you exactly what our friend's father said to me, that my mouth dropped open. I was like, okay. And then he's like, don't tell. And I was like, I'm clearly telling her immediately what you just said to me.
Oh, God. But yeah, I think that it's funny because Lee was listening to me get organized and order food that day and talk to you. And he was like, how do you guys just know what to do? And I said, because there's like an order to things, and there's just things you do and ways you show up. And it is very nice because like, he's like, I would have no clue, like anything, what to do, who to call, what to send, like any of these things. And I think it does give us like Judaism does lay out a framework that is very helpful.
And it's helpful for us too, because obviously when a friend is going through the situation, you can only be there, and you can only like, there's not a lot you can do. Losing a parent is one of the worst experiences. I mean, there's two things that are constant in your life, and as parents and siblings, and when one of them passes, it's just completely devastating. And the only comfort you can offer to people is just feeling like you're there and supportive, and the fact that they don't have to think about feeding their kids that night or feeding themselves even, because it's just, we know what to do. And it's not, but it's a little selfish on our part too, because it allows us to feel like we're doing something. The fact that there's a playbook. Yeah, because
you feel helpless.
Yes, you feel helpless.
Yeah.
But Judaism has given us a playbook as to what you're supposed to do, so you feel a little less helpless. Like you're supposed to feed them. You're supposed to show up at the funeral. You're supposed to go to Shiva. Like it gives us the playbook to allow us to feel like we are supporting
and
our
gives us a time and place to show up even when we're not invited, because most like that you just know you can be there, and they know you're going to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's I say it all the time, that Judaism does do death correctly, and it helps us know how to be there for our friends.
I would
because
agree.
Death sucks.
But it happens, and so I think
it's unavoidable.
Yeah, but it really made, the timing was just so interesting, and I was supposed to be like on the East Coast, and then my trip got messed up, and then it was the snowstorm and all these things, so I couldn't even get there. I had just meant to be there, and then I couldn't even get back there. So but it just, having all these conversations leading up to this just made me feel even more connected. And I just think the timing was just, I don't know, meant to be in that way.
I agree. I think it was. And I thought the same thing. That it was just, not that it wouldn't have been natural to call you. It was just so much
easier though.
It was so much easier. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
It was so much easier.
So we didn't really talk too much about it in your episode, the idea of like a ripple challenge of taking what we're trying to do in the podcast and either reconnecting with an old friend, or I mean, we reconnected, so I feel like that was part of it, or building new connections. Have you like thought at all about, I mean, your network, I feel like is always sort of strengthening and expanding, but has it sparked any like wanting to reconnect maybe with someone like me who you hadn't connected with in that way? Like, has it sparked any other interest to
I don't know
connect
necessarily
further with
if
anyone
it
or stronger?
sparked, but I think us reconnecting the way we have recently would make me not hesitate to do it again, because even like I honestly I don't know if I would have been on the top of your podcast list if I hadn't reached out to you for dinner with George and me when I was out in LA. Like that like started this whole thing. Maybe I would have been on your list, but I like when we were talking, I saw our mutual friends like maybe 2 weeks or a week before I was coming out to LA, and we were talking about you, and just in that moment I sent you a text like, hey, I'm coming out to LA, you want to do dinner with us? And
I was like, yes.
That I think is and I think that's the takeaway, is make the outreach, because if they say no, they say no. If not, like, you know, we ended up having a great time, and then that's led to this again.
and now me and George are doing dinner like once every few months. I never hung out with George by myself ever until these dinners we've been having. Yeah, I never hung out with him, just he and I. Although he did recently send me some pictures of like Purim of like 2017 or 2012. I don't even know what year. And I was like, not 2017. I think it was like 2012. And I was like, holy shit. George is like was in all of these pictures, and I just never even really like thought about it. Like we were all together all the time.
Yeah. It's funny. This is a story. Oh, so also let's talk about one of my favorite things. I saw Ian recently. Ian and I sent a picture.
Yes. So now I'm getting pictures of my villagers coming together.
I ran into him and we were like, hey, fellow podcast guest. But it was Purim that I ran into him at. But one of my favorite things from his episode was you guys talking about the man making the chicken in the basement. I laughed so hard about that because he was the nicest man ever. But yes,
he was so nice, but it was weird, right? I mean, it was weird.
Yeah. And also though, like I thought Ian really, and I told Ian this, I was like, when it's the JHP fundraiser, I'm going back to the podcast and like I'm taking the soundbite, because you did a really amazing way of just like articulating the way JHP brought people together and like created a community. But it was Purim recently, and I was actually at Steve Katz's office the day of Purim because I was meeting with him about something. And like 3 or 4 people stopped by to bring those Purim baskets that you give out on Purim. And I like told the story. I was like, Steve, you have no idea what it was like to work for JHP when it was Purim. I was like, Lindsay, Alexis, and I.
The Shalom Mono, the deliveries?
Yes. Do you remember? We would like load up the car. We'd get a list of like places we'd have to go. One person would go into the
They were
zone,
big
one
tins full of cookies and gel, like all kinds of stuff. And we would have to go, we had a long list, and then we'd have to go around the city, double park. I mean, there's no parking like in Philly. And we would have to run up and then just like deliver.
One would wait in the car, one would run up, and then like, but they were also like the best. They're like these chocolate covers. So like,
we used to try to steal some if we couldn't deliver them.
We would hope that somebody would take theirs so that we could like have some, and it was delicious. And then there would always be some party at night. And I still remember there was one staff meeting the day after Purim, and I was like handing out snacks because you're supposed to drink on Purim. That's like part of it. And I was like handing out water and snacks and like juice to everyone so that we could get through the meeting and nurse our hangovers.
We had many of those types of meetings.
Yes. But yeah, I had that like flashback when we had to deliver all of those.
That's so funny.
No, but I was really glad we did this, and I had a lot of fun. It was fun, like running into Ian and us both talking about our experiences. He told me he couldn't get through his episode. He said he hated listening to himself.
It is is hard. It's hard. That's the other thing. I had to like let go really early on of listening to myself or worrying about what I look like because everybody is just really critical of themselves. That's just like human nature, you know?
I did discover I say like too often. That was
same.
my other take. Yeah.
I am working on, but not super successfully, my vocabulary and articulating myself and not saying like or it's very difficult, especially in casual conversation when we're not scripted or thinking about what we're saying. We're like real loose over here.
I think it's a bit of a crutch too. Instead of it just being silence or we throw in the word like, and I'm trying to get better at that. That was my takeaway when I had to listen to myself but I did have a lot of friends text me saying they were going to listen to the episode and whatnot. And I didn't. Also, a lot of people thought I started a podcast because I just kept resharing your social media post. So I did get a lot of
like, Jen, your podcast is awesome.
Yeah. They're like, you started a podcast? I said, no, I'm just a guest. My nephew specifically sent me a text. Did you start a podcast?
That's so funny. Did they like it?
Yes, I got some great feedback. I didn't go into detail because I did find it uncomfortable. That was one of the aspects that I didn't, as much as it was fun to like sit here and have the conversation with you, in the moment when I was recording it, I don't think I was comprehending that it was going out on broadcasts to everybody. Because we have known each other for a long time.
Right.
We are old friends. It is as simple as riding a bike when we got back together. I wasn't thinking about that, but I don't feel embarrassed about anything I said. It was just, some of it was slightly uncomfortable, but no one, it's just, you put me in the hot seat a little bit. Yeah,
I know I did. I'm sorry.
That's why I turned it back in this episode and put you in the hot seat in the beginning.
It's fine. It's fine. Fair. But I do think the feedback I got was just that you... especially like the Sam who edits all the videos was like, I love Jen. I love Jen.
Sam.
and I think, you were really real and you showed up as yourself and you were vulnerable and very authentic. And I think that is ultimately what this is about and what people really connect to. And I know it can be really hard. So I very much appreciate you being willing to do that. And you can take all of this to your therapy and work,
Maybe I should just send her the episode and be like, can you listen? Charge me for one session for listening. And then let's.
Yes. But I think it's, I think in the end, this has been a very worthwhile experience for me. And I'm going to take it in some different directions because quite honestly, I'm tapped out of friends. So this is like the first iteration of people that I would really consider. And, you said like, you don't know if you were on my like top list. And I did have like a list and I originally was going to put you and our other friend together and that didn't work out. And then there wasn't really a hesitation of whether I wanted you to be on it by yourself because you were like a really core person in my Philadelphia experience. Mm-hmm. And without you, there are some experiences I just wouldn't have had and connections I wouldn't have made. So you are like a pillar of that in that era of my life for sure.
Well, thank you. I think maybe you can start interviewing like best friends. Like, there's a podcast and I think they only come in and out and they do it, but, Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson, they do sibling, reverie and they'll interview siblings. And
really?
Like how? Yeah. So maybe you can start interviewing best friends and how they became friends, like the ones that met later in life versus the childhood friends, camp friends. You could do like talk to people about who their villages are and why they keep the friends that they do, or even like dive into men a little because here's my thing about men. Men keep friends from the beginning. They don't pick them up later. And like how men deal with friendships is always interesting too. You can cut that if you want.
Well, I'm doing so. We're going to do like some Father's Day stuff in June. And then I'm working on a segment about work culture, about work community, because we spend like so much of our time, most people, like in work. And so the people you work around are really influential into, you know, how you sort of interact with the rest of your life, or like the, you know, how much they either push you or drain you. I feel like you take that into like your personal life. So I feel like that has a big effect. And then I have some people
That's
who
interesting how
are,
because our friendship like deepened because of work too. Like
yeah,
I actually had to separate later in life work a bit because we worked and socialized together.
it was one and the same. It was like my life.
Yes, JHP was this little family. And then after I left JHP, I worked for this very small startup where it was also a little way too intertwined. Then I started working for a larger company and I'm like, oh, people go home at 5
This is
and
not
stop
okay.
talking to each other.
How weird.
Yes, like separation of church and state. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, I've never worked for any corporate place, and so that's all I've ever known, and I'm not sure I could survive in a super corporate environment.
I mean, I have, but it's that you know, have had work husbands and things like that still because that is what I knew.
Right. So I think that exploring that is kind of interesting. And then, you know, how the work culture has an impact on your life. And then I'm going to be talking to some people that run supper clubs, like community, like supper clubs. I know you do a lot of that stuff too. Like that. What is that? Like that dinner? What was it called?
I mean, I've had like dinner club where we go out to different restaurants and stuff like that. But I do actually specifically know somebody. It's a friend of mine, my friend Denise. It's a St. Thomas friend, but I've met her, but she's originally from Philly. So she has Philadelphia-based friends that will bring people together over a community dinner. Yeah. I have his information somewhere if that's somebody you want to reach out to.
Send that to me. Because I think that's also like a very, you know, I'm just interested in how our environments and our community and the people like in other parts of our villages, not our personal, but maybe our work or our community or charity, how that, you know, other pillars of your village. So I'm going to be exploring that because, I'm tapped out of my friends that I would want to spend this amount of time talking to, quite honestly.
I still think you should interview George.
I do want to have George on, but I want to have George on as community because he has moved. I'm going to talk to him about it at dinner. He has moved city to city and he always finds this group and they sort of are his gateway into like interacting and social activity in the city. So I think when people move and they, you know, if they could seek out different communities, I think that's really interesting. So I'm going to see if he'll expand
also has this unique ability to maintain incredibly close relationships with a large footprint of people.
I don't know how he does that.
I don't know how he does it either, but
he texts me at like 1 a.m. Maybe that's how he doesn't sleep. He's just like up. I'll send you the pictures he sent me. It's just he and I, and he's like dressed up in like a mask and a cape. I'm like, where is this from?
It had to be Purim, yeah.
It was a Purim, but it was like from way back in the day.
Remember he used to do the Halloween parties too? Like, do you remember the year him, Josh and Dan were like Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Yes.
The Ronald McDonald and the Burger King.
Yes.
Yeah, Dan was Colonel. George was the Burger King and Josh was Ronald McDonald.
They love that guy loves to dress up.
Yeah.
He loves to dress up.
Have a good theme.
I know, I do. Well, I want to thank you again for, you know, being really vulnerable. I know that it is not easy and I know that it's a little cringe, but I think it's for the best. I think people resonate with that because I think people want to be like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback because it makes me feel better about feeling vulnerable.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you again. And we have to keep checking in with each other.
we actually, needs to be our takeaway, is that we just continue to keep talking to each other, and hopefully you're going to plan another trip out here, or
I'm trying to get our friend to come out to like Ojai for like a,
I would do that.
Yeah.
I would absolutely do that. It doesn't take much to get me on a plane.
Yeah. So I'm trying to plan something like that when she's ready to like come out for like maybe a little girls like extended long weekend.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's just make it happen.
That.
Let's make those Chardonnay plans.
Let's make those Chardonnay plans, Jen. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. And you enjoy the rest of your fuck around day.
I will.
If you have too much of it left.
It's probably about wine time now. It is 5:20, so that'll be good.
All right. Well, enjoy, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
If this episode inspired you to reach out to someone or make a new connection, we would love to hear about it. Please send us a message or drop us a comment on our Instagram at Village in Progress Podcast, or you can drop a comment on our YouTube channel at Village in Progress Pod. And if you would like to hear more of our episodes, please subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe and follow wherever you listen and watch. From our village to yours, thank you so much for listening. Keep connecting, growing, and let's build something meaningful together. Talk to you next week.